welcome back to part 2. Okay, so I just showed you where the pins were located. So now you have that correctly installed onto your board. You'll also need to place a wire for your sound. Now, I'm doing dual mono in mine, so this is how this is working. So you'll notice here, so give you an orientation. Here's your controller port going straight up. This green bulb you want to solder on to the top facing the pin connector. Just go ahead and solder right on that connector there. You don't have to go to the pad, just on the piece itself. Alright, and I just have it left here until I do my final connections. Now, this is something I'm testing on this one. I did not do it in my first one, and it does work. I have kind of done temporarily little hookup, is installing an LED. Now, some people can install the LED inside the actual red power switch that goes up and down. They do it from the inside. I'm not that skilled, and I mean, it looks really cool, but I want it to function more so than look pretty. So what I've done here was just use this green wire. I just put some solder down, laid down the wire for a ground, and here with the same power I just attached another tiny little thin wire, white wire here, to power an LED. Now on to the back part of the system. Now that you have that done, this is important. This is what caused me to mess up when I did mine. I originally removed this piece, thinking it was RF shielding, like this. Speaking of which, I'm glad I pointed that out. This RF shielding, first off, you'll need to make sure you cover and tape. This is where your where you'll be mounting your video circuit to. Also on this end, you'll notice that there was, if you see yours, there's a part that comes off here and goes down for a screw hole. I removed it. This allows me to have space to pull wires up from underneath where my chips are to mount my video circuit here. I mean, I guess you could leave it, but then you're kind of wiggling your wires through this little opening here, and that little opening matches up with this, and so it gets a little hairy. So I just decided to try to cut it straight across as best as I can, and that way I have plenty of room over here to then lay the wires up that way. Okay, now back to this. Sorry, little distraction. I originally thought this was RF shielding. Now, look how thin that RF shielding is. Look how thick that RF shielding is. Nowhere near the same thickness, or what I thought was the same. Because, come to find out, this is not RF shielding. This is a heat sink. You can actually see inside there, you can see a screw mounted to that bit there right behind the AC adapter plug. I do not know the name of that chip, but don't mess with it. I originally unscrewed that and screwed the whole thing, and what happened was it would power on, but it would not stay on. It's like my system would work for a while and then shut itself off, sound and everything. Come to find out, I burnt the piss out of my finger when I was cussing the system after replacing all these parts, and I put the tip of my finger on top of that little metal connector where the screw is and burnt my finger. I quickly realized that where's that heat supposed to go, because it can't get that hot inside the NES. Because I mean, when this thing's powered on, this is cool. I mean, it's not hot at all, barely even warm if that. But that little top metal piece was damn hot. So I dug through my trash. I actually had it in the garbage, pulled it out, mounted it, and then I ran into an issue with this going to where my AV jacks are. So what I did was this was kind of ghetto. I didn't have a sheet metal cutting tool at the time. I do now, to make it a little cleaner. But what you do is you come up from here and just go straight, and then come straight across, and then come down. Sorry about this, guys. But you kind of see what it looked like slightly before. This is the Japanese AV Famicom version, but you can see how it comes down, and it's not connected in the back, so you can kind of break it off there. This is the Japanese one, so it's a tad bit different, but that side's the same. Reconnect it. What I also did, I know this is silly and I bet most of you won't do it at all, but what I did was the little piece down here at the bottom where it connected, I broke it off, mounted it back with this screw. This whole track here is a ground, and I figure if nothing else it might help with a touch of cooling, whatever. I doubt it does anything, but I did it anyway. Yeah, you want to try to leave as much of this as available. You don't want to go cutting it all the way off here or whatnot. You want to leave as much surface area for the heat to dissipate on. So please remember that. Do not throw this out. Okay, so now that I've covered that, you can access that from a screw here and screw down there. And right there, if you want to unscrew it to make your cuts. Okay, now that we've done that, we have your... Alright, we'll turn it around. We have our chip. Our chip is now soldered onto the board. Our sound is there, ready to attach to the port. I mean, it won't be this long, of course. I will trim it back when I go to mount it. You have your leads coming off your circuit board. One's ground, one is video. So there's your audio, there's your video. If you just so desire, here's two little things for a little LED. Alright, so how about the actual system itself, the cover? I've cut my holes. Yeah, the drill slid on me ever so much, so that's why one's slightly different height. But as long as it's functional, more so than anything. You mount it there. You can see I mount my video on the left hand side in this direction, and the white and red on that side. Again, you see the opening there, that rectangle kind of cut out. That's this part back here where that goes. So again, that's why you want to keep that straight there as kind of a guide, you know, to know where to go. And then my LED, I decided to put there. I'm using a tiny little LED. They make tons of different kinds, but I wanted it to look nice from the front. See if I can get it to focus. You can kind of see how it has threads. It also has its little resistor in there. It's its own encased unit. I bought this at Radio Shack. Comes in two colors. This is what the red and the green one. It's called the LED assembly. This is what I used. That's the green one. They have some of these that are a little larger. They just eat up more space. And I drilled it so you can see. I tried to center it as best as I could, but you see that support beam just to the left of the hole that runs up and down. I didn't want to disturb that, so I tried to center it as best as I could with the weird angle in that tiny little narrow rectangle space. That's why it's centered there, but when you look at it on this space, it's kind of off to the right slightly. But yeah. And so after you drill your holes, you place your AV units in, and then you connect it up. So you'll put your video here, and I would do your video here and your ground here, and then just jump all three grounds together. Your audio goes to one, like the white or the red, whichever is more convenient, and then jump it from there. And then if you do decide to do the LED, make sure you stick it through the hole first before you go soldering it. And then, you know, put your red on power, your black on ground, and do it that way. I made these long because what happens is you'll want to put it back together and put your shield back on top of your system. I don't know if I can do this one-handed. And so this will sit up there like so. These wires would come off to the side like so to do the RF, to do the LED. And then these wires here, your video wires, and your audio wires would run down the this side of your system to the back. Again, See, there's your system. When it collapses over, you want to make sure these wires run down this side here. It'll be a little tricky because you have this piece sticking out. Remember, try not to modify that if you can. Make it work out. Twist them together, run them down this side, attach them here snugly, because this will actually sit right in here and eat up this space. Your audio cable can kind of fit there if you like, but everything else needs to come back over, you know. Mount this here, tape it down really good, run your power, your video and your ground this way, tuck it down in there, over to your jacks, LED, put your system together. I do highly suggest testing everything before you go, and guys, have fun. See ya.